We are a small farm out in Orlando, Florida. Another reason for adopting a lot of the agroforestry into our practice is to develop a stress-free environment for the plants. It's said that pest and disease is a stress response. Learning to work with natural rhythm, because I want to work with nature. Why am I going to fight against nature? Nature, it has these response because it's trying to bring in balance.
Farming is science.
Yeah, that's why I love it too, because it's so multifaceted.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another podcast. I'm here with Mike from Ever Oak Farm. Mike, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, bro. It's a pleasure being here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So tell us, you have a market garden. You're a grower.
Yeah. So a little bit of my story and what we do.
Tell us.
So we are a small farm out in Orlando, Florida. We're 10 minutes from downtown Orlando. We run a 60-member CSA, sell to 6 restaurants, which one of those restaurants actually has their green Michelin star, which means they go work with with a lot of consumers and really trying to be sustainable as much as possible, not only in the practice of how they run their restaurants, but also the sourcing of their ingredients. We also sell to 2 resellers, and we do a weekly farm stand during our season, which goes from October to June.
At your location?
At our location,
cool.
Yes. The beautiful thing of where we're located, we're smack down in our market stream. So it's always cool for people to come out and actually see where their food's grown. It's like, I always get the same response. Everyone's like, oh man, I can't believe this is out here and you're doing this. I was like, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We need more of it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm always telling people like we need more producers. That's why I just recently developed an internship program for our farm to have people to come on and get hands-on learning experience. My idea is to have more of a decentralized food system, and we need more producers in small neighborhoods, and you can farm in an urban setting. Our farm before Ever Oak Farm, we ran a small urban operation called New Growth Urban Farm. It was my wife and I and 2 other individuals, and we were killing it on a 1/4 acre lot. And like, even though right now I'm on a 3 acre lot and doing a lot more than what we were doing there, but I always tell people you don't need a lot of space to grow food. Like even for yourself, I always encourage even people to grow food for themselves. I always say the best thing to do is grow for yourself, even if it's a basil plant. That's one less thing you're buying from the store that's being shipped across the state. And a lot of times it's you buy it from the grocery store, bring it in, and it dies anyways, or it wilts down to nothing. So I always tell people the best thing to do is grow your own, even if it's a little patio garden, a couple of things. But if you can't grow your own, you can't grow everything you want to consume, support a local farm. We need more farms in our community. So I always tell people our farm primarily caters within 10 miles from where we're located. So all the CSAs we deliver to and the restaurants we deliver produce to are within 10. I tell people it would be great to bring that down to 5 miles, 2 miles. It would be nice to have more farms to cater in neighborhoods.
Hyper-local.
Hyper local, exactly.
Love it.
And then the next best thing, because we're also so limited of what type of produce and goods we can produce in our that type of urban setting. So then you kind of scale up or move up the state or outside of the region. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me support the larger farms that are around your city. And then if that doesn't work, like wheat, like we're not growing wheat in Florida, but the next best place you can get wheat's in the Carolinas. And we, at times I'll source flowers from farms in Carolina. So I always try to keep it and encourage people be local as much as possible and be connected with the seasonality as well. I think most people in Florida are so disconnected of what Florida seasonality is. We have so many people come through our farm or even just asking questions because everybody wants to learn how to grow, and they come from up north, and it's like, we do the opposite. Our growing season's the opposite. Man, we're having strawberries in December in Florida.
Dude, we're literally have to brainwash ourselves differently.
And I tell people and especially where we're at in Central Florida is so unique because it's like we get a little bit cold enough that we can grow temperate crops like peaches and blueberries, but we also have papaya, bananas, mangoes, and a lot of tropical stuff. So I always tell people how unique Central Florida is, because like where else can you have mangoes and peaches growing together, which we have at our farm.
We're kind of close to that too. Jupiter, we do peaches.
Yeah,
and
are you? Yeah.
But you guys get a little more cold.
Hours.
You're right.
Yeah, our chill hour accumulation there is like 100 to 200 chill hours. Over the years, it has been dwindling down. But due to plant breeding, like one of the varieties of peaches we grow is UP Sun, which only needs 100 chill hours, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's key too, right? Like, but that's good for some stuff. You have lychees that like that. You have different stuff.
Avocados don't mind cold. Yeah, they can do cold weather too.
So
which we're growing avocado. So, but yeah. Anyways, we're in a very unique spot on our location.
I love it, man. Yeah. So you grow vegetables and fruits for local Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah. And we also raise poultry too, for meat. We used to do, we were really starting to build up our egg enterprise, but it was a little too much in how we raise them, and at the scale we're at, we couldn't do it to the full capacity that we would like to make it profitable. So we mostly focus on chicken for meat. We run chicken tractors in our peach orchard and our whole agroforestry system, and they're always grazing in between the alleyways. And
your broilers?
Yeah, our broilers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So they're grazing in the agroforestry system too.
I'm actually retrofitting our whole peach orchard right now to fit a lot of the Syntropic agroforestry principles, planting a lot more support species.
I love it.
What I've gathered, peaches fit in that medium type strata, and since I also run poultry through there, I also want to plant support species to feed the poultry, like plant a bunch of mulberries. So mulberries fit nicely in that high strata. So during the mulberry season, like when it's super prolific, berries just drop on the ground, and when the birds come through, they got something to graze on. Not only they're grazing on grass and grubs, but berries that we're growing. Elderberry would be another good one I've considered throwing into the peach orchard as well. But
stacking function. It's like stacking function.
Exactly.
So you're a market garden.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So my first question, and by the way, you already answered it. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, what is market gardening and why is it important? You said that. You said local food.
Yeah,
decentralized food. By the way, that's what you said.
Exactly.
It's on it.
Market gardening or market farming is referred to as a producer that's selling directly to the consumer. When you're a larger farm, you're mostly focusing on distribution through like you're selling to major grocery stores and also
shipping box trucks.
Catering, exactly. Yeah. So
people, hotels.
Exactly. Versus a market farm, you find your demographic, you find your market, and you're producing directly for that. And I think that's important. I always tell people, it's like everyone has their CPA, their lawyers, their doctors, their teachers, but we eat every day and no one knows their farmer and how their food is being produced. So
everyone needs an accountant. People need farmers too.
Exactly.
Wow.
So so I tell people, I was like, yo, let me be your farmer. Like,
that's amazing.
If you don't want me as a farmer, at least find somebody else. It doesn't have to be me. I'm all about open, like you do it, like more producers, the merrier.
That's right, brother. So, because by the way, I think also, like, don't you think it's people who just appreciate the ingredients?
Yeah.
Like that's what you said with the chefs. Like, even people, like, I just like the freshness, the nutrient. Like, you got to value that in order to care enough to come to your farm and pick it up.
Totally.
Right?
It does take a special individual or a certain type of individual that's seeking that, but it's bringing awareness. And and the more
because they'll bring it home to their kids and to their friends, and they'll be like, wow, have you had Mike's carrots or whatever?
Exactly. Which is cool about our CSA, because some of our CSA members, when they can't do a pickup, I always tell them, like, get one of your friends and family comes through, and they come out and get in. They're like, oh man, this is great. And then they end up coming on, and it opens up their mind. So
tell us about that CSA. What is CSA? Because you do, that's how you primarily sell your produce.
That's our main thing is our CSA. So CSA is community supported agriculture. So what it is people within the community buy shares into the farm, and in return, they get a weekly bag or box of produce. Every CSA farm out there operates a little bit differently, but for the most part, that's a CSA in a nutshell. People buy shares into the farm, and for their investment, their upfront investment into the farm, which they're also at the same risk as the farmer. So a hurricane could come 2 weeks from now, wipe out. And I'm like, y'all, I'm sorry, even though I do my best, but that's why I'm always trying to diversify the farm as much as possible. And
to look out for your shareholders.
Yeah, and work out the shareholders. Not only work out my shareholders, but also I always say, and we were talking about this earlier, diversity creates resiliency. Like the more diverse you're within an enterprise, because we also don't only fully operate just as a CSA. We do sell our farm stand in that. I like to have diverse market streams. So not only am I trying to keep my farm as diverse as possible with the planting and developing that ecology and really embracing agroecology, with the animal integration and a lot of the support species we plant that we're not even planting to consume, but planting for the other plants that we're consuming to consume or to build and support them.
But you also want it for your market.
Yeah, but I have a diversity for our market and also
different places.
And different places, but even revenue source for our farm too. It's you have, like I said, the CSA, the restaurants, the farm stand, but we also are now expanding on building up a nursery enterprise. And then we're also have the poultry. And
so you're going to be selling, you sell plant produce, meats, and now you're going to do nursery plants
and sell plant starts, because I'm always encouraging people to grow your own. And
yes,
and for the ones that can't grow your own and you still need to supplement a little bit, hey, come support me. So let's support and help each other.
Because people come, by the way, this is so good, guys, because I get texts, all I do is bringing them the nursery plants, right? In my world, it's like I'm helping them grow it at their house. However, people hit me up all the time because I'm a grower. Do you have produce I could buy? Same thing with you, probably. Do you have plants I could buy?
That's the why I started getting into it, because people were like coming in and buying produce from us, and it's like, oh, hey, I'm trying to set up my garden. What do you recommend to plant? What should I be planting? What varieties to do? And just giving the people the whole talk and spiel and trying to educate them as much as possible. That's why we also started hosting workshops at our farms too.
You do workshops there?
Yeah, it's something we just started earlier this year.
How's that going?
Dude, it's fantastic.
Amazing.
The feedback on it's fantastic, and they fill up pretty quick. We've done 3 workshops so far this year. Wow. I did a collaboration with somebody in our area. We did our seed to salad workshop, and talked about the different planting techniques and other greens you can grow
That's a good
in your
name.
Garden. Yeah, seed to salad. So we did it literally from seed, the maintenance, the harvesting, showed some harvesting techniques on it, planting techniques, and then even prepared a salad at the end of the workshop, because it's like, cool, yeah, we grow this. What do you do next? Like, how are we going to prepare it?
That's right.
And I have a background in culinary arts. I'm a self-taught producer and grower. I originally never thought I would get into farming.
Yeah, dude, tell us about that. How'd you get into it? Because I want to know about that.
So originally I tell people it started when I went to culinary school.
Where was that?
Up in Orlando, Orlando Culinary Academy. This was back in 2008. I was in culinary school, and just being exposed to all these cool ingredients and cooking techniques and all that. Some things that like I didn't even grow up being introduced to. And then a little bit into that journey, I just started kind of questioning things. I'm like questioning our food system, and I'm just like, well, how's this grown? And just the rabbit hole, like started going down the rabbit hole. So originally I got into growing with the idea of being self-reliant, because you're like, damn, our food system is fucked. and like they're poisoning us.
Most of us get into it for that reason. They're like, how do we get a whole...
It's so centralized. It's not only that it's centralized, it's poisoning us, and just learning every form of agriculture and getting the nitty-gritty of it, and like, just studying every little bit of it. And
dude, and then over the year, you were inspired by like Curtis Stone. A lot of the same inspirations as I was back in the day.
Back in 2012, I was like, we're gonna learn how to grow our own food. So I started this when we were living in downtown Orlando, and my wife and I started picking up gardening. We started with a 4x8 garden bed, and I always tell people, I'm like, look, I started with a 4x8 garden bed 12 years ago, and 12 years later, now I got a full-on 3-acre farm, like full running poultry, full agroforestry system, market gardening, feeding 60 households. Yeah, it's pretty.
It started
it just started just what a raised bed and a garden and a few containers like.
But that's a good point though. It starts somewhere.
It starts somewhere, and then the years it just kept growing, and you just kind of play with different growing techniques after just classic backyard gardening, and picked up permaculture, dove deep into the realm of permaculture. And then. Obviously, we moved out of that house, moved to a different house. We moved into a house with some housemates, and had a whole food forest going on back there. Did that thing for a bit, and then I was like, being in the restaurants was exhausting. It's the hospitality industry is a very tough industry to be in.
It's a grind.
And
grind mode.
I'd rather be grinding outside versus being in a hot kitchen under fluorescent lights. So I'm like, I could handle working in the kitchen. I could definitely handle working outside. It gets 100 degrees in those kitchens at times, and you're in a hot grill that's like 600 and 700 degrees. So I'm like, I'm going to start farming full time, and kind of dropped my sous chef position at the time and just started being self-employed too, because that's another thing. I was like, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to work for myself. I want to be responsible for myself and have my own responsibilities. And
dude, that's right. Because I can relate a lot to you.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, was it any, like, how much of a responsibility? Like, we didn't realize
really not that much. It's just talking, hey, I'm doing this now. And I was doing private chef gigs, cooking on the side. I was still working in the restaurants on the side too. Whenever somebody called out or they had vacation, they're like, hey, can you fill in these dates? So I still did that. And in between that, I started studying more agriculture and picking up gardening. And then back in 2015, we started our first market garden up in Sorrento, which is about 45 minutes northwest from Orlando. Started with a 3,000 square foot market garden, just selling. We did a few farmers markets, and then sold to a couple restaurants. Did that for a season, and then at the end of that season, my housemates and I decided to, like, hey, let's go ahead and partner up. And Curtis Stone just released his book, the Urban Farmer. At that time, it was like 2 months young, and we literally ripped that play by play and tore down our whole entire food forest and set up the classic market gardening techniques. And just started killing it. We did 3 seasons of that, doing the multi-plot thing,
selling produce
from your yard. From the yard, exactly, from our backyard, our front yard, and somebody else's yard too, and another business's yard. And we did the
style, man.
Yeah, we did the multi-plot thing. And
dude, tell us about that experience.
Dude, it was great, because I tell people, like, you don't need a tremendous, like, I think we just had this conversation. You don't need a lot of space to do it. And we were cranking out a lot of food.
You don't
and
need
we
a
were
big
making and
footprint.
if it was just one individual's income, like, it was a decent income that we were generating. But then we decided to dissolve that, and we went our separate ways. And that's when, back in January of 2019, we formed Ever Oak Farm. And then shortly after forming Ever Oak Farm, we came across the property that we're currently at. And I also tell people too, I'm on leased land. I'm a farmer that owns no land. And that's another thing that I feel like people think, or young, at least I thought that. It's like, oh, I'm going to buy land. I need to get land to become a farmer. It's like, no, you don't. Just start now.
Bro,
I started now.
It shouldn't hold you back.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Yeah. And
because, by the way, we could do so much in 12 months. People don't realize.
Yes, exactly. It's crazy just to look back what I've accomplished in 5 years. I'm like, whoa. But even just within 3 weeks of us planting, everyone, my interns came through a week after planting. They're like, man, you're right. Like, it's crazy how much things just change and grow. Just putting that seed in the ground. A week later, it's popping through. It's a big one. Come 2 weeks later, it's like, it happens quick. I think people get intimidated. It's like,
it never
very
gets
long
old.
investment, but there's so many things to grow. No, it doesn't. It always amazes me. Every time going to the nursery and seeing things sprout up, I'm like, oh yeah, this is nice. Every time after I drag soy in a field and come back 5 days later, everything's popping up. It always amazes me. And especially what amazes me is like how small seeds are, and like becomes this massive plant. Like,
dude,
yeah, it's.
Wait, that's an important point you just brought up. Yeah. Like, I love that you started Ever Oak in 2019.
Yeah.
And by the way, here we are. So it's an honor to have you.
Yeah.
But also, man, that's so important. Like, what do you think holds them back from getting started? Is it they don't
scared.
Have fear?
I think they're fear. That's what I tell people. And everyone asks is like, what do you recommend to, you know, it's like, don't be afraid to fuck up, because you are going to fuck up, but you're going to learn from that.
Fail forward.
Yes, exactly.
Dude, that's good stuff.
Yeah, you just.
But by the way,
people are fear driven. They like, what if? They always say, "Oh, I'm gonna fail," or "What if?" It's like,
right.
Well, you don't know till you do it.
What if we succeed beyond our wildest dreams too?
And also, I tell people we're not born knowing this stuff. It's like, this is shit that we just got to learn. Obviously, I didn't grow up knowing this. I just read the books, read some literature online, and just put it to practice. Oh, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. Not going to do that again. Or, oh, that almost worked, but I got to modify that. So, yeah,
amazing.
It's the fear of failure, I think, is what holds a lot of people back, a fear of change and all that. But things are always ever changing. So you can't be fearful of that. You got to embrace the change thing.
This is good stuff, Mike. I can relate to your mindset.
Hey guys, just wanted to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Urban Abundance. We help people grow food at home. And if that's something you're interested in doing, or maybe you don't know where to get started, or it's really overwhelming, but you want to grow food, give us a call today. We help you design, install, and maintain your garden. We do fruit trees, we help you with maintenance, and we just really want to make sure you're getting the result you want and you're growing food. So if that's something you're interested in, click the link below and get on your garden design phone call today. Let's get back to the video.
So that's why you've been so, built this amazing creation in Orlando. By the way, guys, go check them out. Where is it at?
We're right 10 minutes from downtown Orlando. Just give us a good quick Google. Our information there. Just put our name into maps and show up. Our farm stand opens up again October 19th. We go from October 19th to June 7th. So every Saturday the farm's open up to the public, so you could actually come, see, walk around the farm, pick up a chicken, a bottle of honey, a few bags of lettuce. We usually have a food vendor there too, or a coffee vendor too, so you can have a cup of coffee, a bite to eat, walk around the farm and see what's growing, and how the progressions are, especially if you're regular. On the weekends, on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Amazing.
So
they can experience the farm and get the
produce. Exactly. Wow. So you don't have to be a CSA member to attend the farm. The benefit of being a CSA member is you get guaranteed produce each week. Well, somewhat guaranteed unless a disaster happens, but we're still pretty good in following through. We want people to keep coming back.
That's the key.
But then also people got to realize, like, we're working with natural rhythms here. Y'all are probably down here like off by like a month or 4 weeks.
You're probably right. You start earlier.
I started a little bit earlier. True. Yeah, our nursery started up late July, early August, and then we start getting stuff in the ground in September. So
because you guys are worried about frost, is that why?
No. So I get things early because I want to get to market early. That's my income. Have more. That's my income. So there's some things there, and over the years I learned what's worth pushing, trying to get into market early, and what's worth just waiting to just hold off.
Because some stuff it won't work.
No, then also the weather too, because this time of year it's rough where we're at, and I think y'all have been experiencing it down here too. The rains just hammer. So there's times I transplant, and this is in the past, I'll transplant a full block of whatever it is, kale, collards, and then later that afternoon it just dumps an inch of rain and then clears out, nothing happens. Like, great, that just got hammered.
There goes 6 weeks.
There goes, exactly. Now I'm like, all right, now I got to plant again. There's going to be a little spotty. I'll deal with this now. But yeah, you eventually learn. I always tell people the easiest time to start planting, after we get hit our autumn equinox, it just gets a little easier here. So, but I want to, it cools down. The rain kind of settles down a bit. But going back into our extreme weathers of this time of year with all the rains and the mini tropical storms that hit us.
Tropical storm
and then
season.
During the winter season, we are prone to get frost, and on occasional we get like a 10-year freeze that will come through. So that's why I adopted agroforestry as well, because I want to develop that microclimate to build more resiliency, to have that buffer on the shoulder seasons. When it's too hot, I have a canopy, it's buffering, it's a wind protection. It's nursing those annual vegetables a little bit more. And then when the cold comes through, it's like it's a buffer from that frost, so we're not going extreme, because during the winter, 1 second it's going down in the 30s with a high in the 50s, and then the next day it's low 60s and highs in the 80s. So that's a lot of stress on plants. And I also tell people too, and another reason for adopting a lot of the agroforestry and implementing agroforestry into our practice is to develop more of a stress-free environment for the plants. I always say it's said that pest and disease is a stress response. It's like either too much or too little of something. So whatever that may be at this current situation, like one big example I give is aphids. Aphids are attracted to plants that are experiencing two things: water stress, so not enough water, and excess nitrogen. When you as a gardener or a producer puts too much nitrogen down, either synthetic, organic, or even rich compost, because it's happened to me that my compost was still a little too hot.
Even rich
compost that's still a little nitrogen rich, and the plant going through that huge intake of nitrogen attracts aphids. Another thing too that I experienced personally on my farm, during the fall, autumn, we struggle with growing zucchinis. We deal with yellow zucchini mosaic virus. So the virus is always presented there, but I can grow zucchini during the spring. So this time of year,
because it's dry.
It's springtime is dry. So now it's so wet and it's so hot that the virus, that plant shows the symptoms of it. And then I get these deformed looking zucchinis. You can still eat them, but they're not marketable. They just look funky and they're not as productive. And then during the spring, we get nice, beautiful, productive zucchini. The virus is still there, but it's not stressed that it's exerting those symptoms. So those are two examples that I've personally experienced that I tell people. So this is my goal: balanced soil, very healthy, diverse balanced soil of different microbial and fungal activity, and building the environment that these plants want to thrive in, and being selective of what we're planting a certain time of year. Another thing too, we always deal with flea beetles in March. So anything in the Brassica rapa family, which is like your Chinese cabbage and your pak choys, your mizunas.
I love them.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
They're so good.
So those are the Brassica rapas. So March, flea beetles always present itself. And I'm always like trying to figure out like how a way around it. And sometimes I think pest is just a seasonal thing.
It's like,
I'm done planting. Yeah. I'm like so what I do is like, I'm done planting that. So right now we plant all of our Brassica rapa. We hit it hard. We consume as much as we can with our Brassica rapas until about March is our last harvest, because any new plantings that I do at the beginning of March always get hammered by flea beetles. So learning to work with natural rhythm, because I want to work with nature. I want to take the path of least resistance. So like, why am I going to fight against nature? Nature, it has these response because it's trying to bring in balance. So we're always trying to be in that relationship with it. And that's always been our goal with the farm. It's like to go beyond sustainability, like to be regenerative and to accumulate that abundance. And that's what attracted me so much to the Syntropic agroforestry. Yes. It's like I dabbled a tad bit and started implementing that years ago, and until I took the workshop last year with
took it with Tiago and Matt. Tiago's awesome. Tiago's the man, by the way.
And taking that workshop accelerated, because you can, there's only so much you can get off of YouTube and picking it there, but not until you're there with somebody that's experienced it and taking it, information in the system, explaining every little nuances and feeling it. It's not only just looking at it, because like, you can look on YouTube and watch all these Instagram reels and all that, but you don't know it till your foot's in the ground, your hand's in the ground, you're looking at it, you're feeling it and experiencing it. But after taking that workshop, it helps accelerate everything that's happening at the farm.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I love it. And by the way, I love Urban Abundance has the same core values. Like work with nature. And we're always trying to educate our customers like, hey, we're going to crush it with these crops this time. Yeah. For sure. Like, because we see around those corners. Yeah. The pests come out in the spring like clockwork for certain crops. You're on it, bro. Yeah. So tell us, I want to talk about Syntropic.
Yeah. But even real quick before we go into the Syntropic, but people also being aware of what to eat at different time of years too. Like I've guided some other backyard gardeners, and then one's like, hey, I really want to have like a very caloric type garden. Like, what can I grow? I'm like, bro, There's so much you can grow. So let's start planting. Like, let's start in January. January, you plant your regular white potatoes. Okay, cool. That's like, as soon as you're harvesting your white potatoes, we start planting sweet potatoes. And also, let's plant cassava. So there's starches that you can grow year round. So you can literally go from potatoes to sweet potatoes to cassava, and then go back to potatoes, and just learning like what grows, and being into learning what other caloric type starchy food that we can consume, because you only can eat so much kales and lettuce. We also nice to grow some like calories, like starchy food.
Dude. So I love that. So because by the way, all those have different days to maturity. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, yucca. So you plant them
at certain times and almost around the same time.
Amazing.
And then you're harvesting it at different periods. So it's just people getting connected to that type of rhythm, and opening their mind to other things other than what they're typically used to and what's fed to us from the grocery store.
Dude, so good. Yeah, man, spitting good stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, what do you plant after, like, when you plant zucchinis in the spring, you said?
Yeah.
Like once those bugs come in April, because you see them flying around like crazy.
So let's see.
Springtime,
Orlando. So arugula? Typically it starts with arugula will start backing down around that time, because they still, like, it seems like
they get nailed.
They want to get nailed. I can still push lettuce. But at that time I start getting my warmer season, eggplants, peppers, tomatoes are in the ground. So they those greens come out, and those warm season crops come in. So that's essentially it.
Same deal.
Okra starts coming in, and then maybe start planting some roselle. Like, we have like 400 linear feet of roselle planted at the farm right now. Wow. Hibiscus is a big thing for us.
Dude,
consumer over the years.
Brother, I want to, like, people, because you keep bringing up Syntropic, and it's so good because it relates. I want you to just help wrap people's head around it. You already said it. Accumulate abundance is the goal.
Yeah.
But I also want, which is like, also like, you wanted to make that canopy.
Yeah.
So you could have this resilient system. Tiago, when I was with them, people kept saying, we get cold frost. Like, what do we do about it? At the workshop?
You grow trees, and you grow more support species.
He got like frustrated, bro. He showed us on the screen, like, a tree with snow all over it. And there was, like, under the tree, there was, like, it was warm climate.
Yeah.
And to make a point, and I was like, man, maybe, like, we're so just, like, stuck in, like, without the canopy.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to wrap their head around it.
Yep. So Syntropy is the
it's its own growing...
I'm still a student in Syntropy. Always will be a student.
Yeah.
But this is my interpretation and what I've gathered. But Syntropy is the accumulation of abundance. It's going from simple to complex, versus the opposite of Syntropy is entropy, which is going from complex to simple.
Why is Syntropy better?
Syntropy, there's 5 main principles that you're following within Syntropy, which is keeping the ground covers, maximizing photosynthesis, natural succession, stratification, and management, which management is the number one big thing of all. The next thing is that ecological succession of the different plantings we're doing to push forward on that ecological succession.
Management is part of it.
Management is the big thing, because after you plant it, what are you going to do? And especially planting at things at such high density, we're managing that stratification. Understanding stratification is referred to the light requirement of the plant. It's not the height, but the light requirement. And depending where those light requirements are with the plants will depend where they fall in that ecological succession and where they fall in that
in the system,
and within the system.
Yeah. But that's
how you kind of like set the heights and the levels of each plant. Like I saw, lettuce is high strata, so you don't want to grow it in a very shady environment. If you grow lettuce in a very shady environment, unless if it's the climate and time, there's so many little nuances here, because during the summer months, you want to probably grow in that lettuce and maybe in a medium strata, because there's so much more daylight.
Exactly.
But during our main growing season of lettuce, high strata is where you want to grow, which is like that 80% sunlight. Because if you grow lettuce in a shady environment, it's going to stretch. It's looking for light. So that's how you observe plants. It's like, how much light are they stretching? Or how much are they stretching out to capture that light and to fully maximize on that photosynthesis? So with that all being said, implementing these practices and these ideas is really changed my whole perspective, not only on life, but how I farm.
That's amazing. Dude, thanks for breaking that down. Because strata, all that is like, it's just more awareness around the plants, around creation.
You gotta just observe the plant and where they are. Like for one example, what is it? Citrus is more medium strata, but yet we grow citrus, and how we exploit citrus here. Dude, we put it in the middle of the sun, getting pounded, and now they're stressed. And then we deal with greening, and that's due to a pest. And that pest spreading havoc of
case closed.
But imagine if like what happens if we stratified and put citrus where it wants to be, and then on top of that regenerate that soil, because our soil is so depleted because the amount of glyphosate that's used in agriculture, and especially citrus. It's like you killed the soil. Dude. There's no life to the soil, so how do you expect the plants to thrive? And like back in the old days when these guys were pumping citrus, you just think about it, that was freshly cleared forest, cleared land that had an accumulation of life into it, and I had that diversity, so of course it was thriving back in the day. But if you don't keep that life going and keep regenerating, and you just keep extracting all of its resources and also nuking it with the poison that we put it, like what do you expect that plant to do?
Entropy.
So, yeah.
Wow, man.
Anyways, dude,
that
my little rant.
It like makes me crazy. Like, but it's hard you can't focus on it because it will make you crazy. Like, I walk into these neighborhoods, they're just clear cut. Used to be beautiful forests. I'm like,
it's
not
necessarily bad if it's clear cut, but are you retaining that organic matter that you clear cut and holding it within the landscape? And then what are you going to plant more? Right. So I don't want to be like, oh no, clear cutting's bad, because man, it's nice to keep resetting forests, and you want to kind of reset the forest here and there. Forest needs a little resetting here and there, but not to extract, like to clear cut it, and then all that resources that you clear cut, then to put it out to the landfill, and now you have this empty land that's being depleted that you took all the life out of.
Where's the biomass?
Yeah,
that's so true, bro.
So
yeah, exactly. Like we could clear cut areas. That's a good point. But how are you doing?
We want to clear cut, maybe clear cut to grow vegetables. Well, most vegetables we're growing are fit in that high strata, that medium strata. So let's open up a little bit more sunlight, bring in that organic matter, drop it down into the soil, put life back into the soil, because the forest does it naturally. Trees fall down naturally. A hurricane comes through. Hurricanes is our pruner. They prune trees. They drop trees. They open up that canopy and bring in more life, more sunlight down to that. And all the young saplings down on the forest floor waiting for that opportunity comes through. So not only do they get a boost of new organic matter there, they also get a new boost of sunlight thriving in. So
we were in flow state big time. That woke us up. Dude, exactly, bro. So good.
Yeah.
It's good to be able to see these things as a farmer, so we can make good decisions.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So
pro chef here today and pro farmer coming at you.
Yeah, we do farm dinners too during the winter. Not only is peak season, the farm is looking lush, but things also kind of slow down a tad bit for at least a few weeks.
It's just harvest mode.
Yeah, it's harvest mode. And on top of that, the cooler temperatures and the shorter daylight kind of slows things for a bit. And so not only is it pleasant being outside, things slow down. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's start doing some dinners. So we do farm dinners in the winter months from December to March. And 12 people, 6 courses. And everything on the plate is from the farm. Like I literally 90% of that meal comes from the farm. Obviously I'm sourcing salt, but I source salt with the best intentions. Any fat that I get, I refrain from using any seed oil. So it's usually tallow, lard, olive oil. But if I get olive oil, I'm like trying to find the closest source of olive oil. So most of the time it's California.
There's a Florida one.
Is there?
I want to have them on the pod. Yeah.
They're actually fruiting olives. I've heard
it was good. I was
I have an olive tree and has yet to fruit.
I guess they had an old grove. Yeah, that's the thing. They like dry.
Yeah, they like dry.
But I asked him, I was like, he was at the market. I was like, these come from Florida. He's like, yeah, we press them. It was delicious.
I gotta see it to believe.
Yeah, I'll show you.
I gotta see it. What I'm gathering is so wet.
But dude, I interrupted. Yeah, that's epic. All of it comes from the farm.
So so even the chicken, the protein that it's on there. At one point we were raising pigs for a bit, so pork was being showcased on the menu. but it's a chance, and it's an education experience. So people come to the farm, they get a cocktail and hors d'oeuvre, kind of hang around a bit, and then we do a full farm tour, go through the whole farm, talk about all of our practices, what we do, our rhyme and reason, and then we sit down and start eating. But even while we're sitting down and eating, I talk about the cultivars, how it's grown, the stories and stuff like that. Like one of my favorites, I didn't have any success this season, but I usually grow a squash called South Anna butternut squash, and it is crossed between a Wadham butternut squash and a Seminole pumpkin. So it has the disease resistance and the vigorous growth of a Seminole pumpkin, but the fruiting characteristic of a butternut. So I give like fun little stories and talk about plant breeding, because I also go on a rant that people are like, oh, GMO is bad in this. I'm all like, well, technically everything is genetically modified. Let's be like specific, like
with our breeding.
So explain that. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Because there's three, what I've gathered, there is 3 forms of genetically modifying an organism. Selective plant breeding, which is you grow it out, you find a desirable trait, you hold on to that seed and you keep planting that. And you keep holding on to the desirable traits you're looking for. Hybridizing, you grow plant A and plant B. This, I like the characteristic of plant A, and I like the characteristic of plant B. Cross-pollinate them. Now you have your F1 hybrid. And then the big one is the transgenic, which is the Roundup Ready corn and soy. And it's debatable if we should be genetically modifying that, but I think the big issue of that is that the chemical usage on it, because from when it's grown to its harvest, it's constantly nuked with glyphosate. So they're like Roundup Ready soy, corn, and all that. They're resistant to these chemicals, and since they're resistant to these chemicals, they're constantly getting exposed to it. So that holds on. That lifespan on those chemicals, like, they don't go anywhere. It takes freaking ages.
They broadcast then they get on the whole field.
And then our livestock consumes that. We consume that in our process. That's why I try to avoid processed.
So you're right. So bioaccumulation,
but anyways,
bro.
So everything's genetically modified. That's always my rant on that. But
dude, thanks for breaking that down. That made, but the first 2 are natural.
Yes, exactly.
The third is debatable.
And it's debatable because then you also have like CRISPR technology that they're just gene editing, which technically you got epigenetics that certain plants, certain stressors will turn it on and off, but we're doing it in an unnatural way.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, I personally don't agree with it. But at the end of the day, my big thing is the chemical inputs of
exactly.
that. Yeah. Selective breeding, hybridizing, I feel like is where it's at. We grow
natural.
Yeah, it's natural. Because if you think about it, like, some people might be like, how is hybridizing doing a natural? It's like, well, a bee could pollinate a plant A, and then plant B could be a little bit different. And if they're in the same plant family, they do that, and then that offspring becomes that. So yeah. Anyways,
no,
my GMO rant.
People don't understand farming. Farming is science.
Yeah, it is. That's why I love it too, because it's so multifaceted, especially at a small scale and in regenerative farm. You think about all that happens there, because like agronomy, soil science, you get into entomology, like having bees, or even just all the predator type insects or insects that we might consider awful not to have, all the native insects that we caught, like, but then what else? Like meteorology, you're connected to the weather. Like there's so many connections within farming of different types of science, botany, horticulture, man. And then even not only that, like you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're a carpenter, you're like you're building up a farm. You got to maintain the farm, and and then running the business. So it's so multifaceted of like managing life, managing the not so life of the business stuff and the infrastructure. And then we got kids. There's a lot.
Do they like growing up on the farm?
Yeah, they love it, man. My son at times will come out with a machete and just start hacking things, and he loves it. My wife is like, I can't stand it. And I was like, my grandparents gave me a machete when I was a kid. I was in the backyard just hacking plants. So it gives them something to do. But they enjoy it. They're connected. And that was my wife and I's intention as well, like for our kids to know and understand how food is processed. Like, man, when my daughter was like a year old and I doing chicken harvest, she was on my back, and I'm here harvesting chickens with her on my back. So they've been connected and see. And also another thing too with farming in general that I really love, because it also goes like pretty spiritual, and then like a lot of philosophical type vibes going on with it, but
tell us about
that life and death.
Yeah, bro.
You're constantly connected with life and death, and to be connected with that endless cycle, you can't have one without the other. If you think about compost, it's decaying dead stuff, but it's also living stuff. I forgot to mention that we compost on the property too. That we're
amazing.
We're partners with O-Town Compost. They collect food scraps. I work with a bunch of local arborists, get their wood chips. So food scraps, nitrogen, wood chips, and carbon, mix the two, and that's what we primarily use. Over the years, I've been trying to refrain from using even organic fertilizer. We still keep some organic fertilizer on the farm and use it as needed. But my goal is to totally eliminate that, because these organic fertilizer comes from CAFO systems, if you think about it, because they're usually organic fertilizers byproduct from animal industries, from mostly CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operation.
So you don't
blood meal, feather meal,
harmony, and all that stuff.
All that stuff. And I'm like, let me try to use it. And that's why it also influenced me to do poultry, because all the innards and bloods and feathers that we do, we compost that to cycle it through. So to go back to that life and death thing, it's like, here's this thing that brought in life. Chickens run through, they're leaving their manure, leaving their then they come through, they have their one bad day, they get harvest, they feed and nourish us, keep living, like they ultimate sacrifice to keep us feed and nourish, but they also fed and nourish the plants too. And then even with their blood and the feathers and the innards that we don't keep, it goes into the compost, gets turned, and then becomes bioavailable organic stuff that then feeds plants. Wow. And then those plants feeds up, but then plants also die to feed that next generation. So there's always this ultimate sacrifice and cycle to keep life going. So to have that connection of that constant life and death, it gets you, like, doesn't matter what you believe in, there's still, like, whatever you believe in, you can't deny that there's this endless cycle of life and death, and you can't have it. And wherever that source may be, I feel you get more connected to whatever source is.
Big time, man.
Everyone has their own interpretation of what source is.
Yeah.
So,
but all of that, dude, it's like, it's sad because we're not around it to most people out there.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it's like everyday nature.
Yes.
When you got into the woods, but like, to your point, this chicken, like, it feeds the land too. Mm-hmm. The blood, the minerals that come from that. Yeah. Like, plant me under a tree. We talk about
the land feeds them too, with the grass and the bugs that the land produces and holds on to. And those insects died to feed that as well. So it's just this whole interconnection. And so, and that's what I really love and appreciate about farming. It's that aspect. Feeding yourself and nourishing yourself and others is great, but getting down to the core of life is, I feel like, better.
Big time. That's what it's all about, man. Yeah, man. Nourish. We got to feed our soul too.
Yeah, exactly. Farming definitely does that. The more you're connected to it. One day we'll be compost if we wanted to.
Yeah, we are. Sorry, guys.
I'll be part of that cycle and then give back to what everything this planet has given me.
Put me in the compost pile.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but dude, you do compost in-house. That's epic.
I have I'm fortunate to do it. It's good. It is what it is.
They bring you the scraps.
They bring us the food scraps and then wood chips, mix the two.
You don't have to order from these.
No, I don't. Yeah. So, and I'm taking the community's food waste. And actually, some of our CSA members are O-Town subscribers. So their food waste eventually comes back to the farm. So it's like this whole cycle. And even some of the restaurants I serve to, they get their compost waste. And at the times I do take in food scraps into the farm, it's kind of cool to be like, take in that community waste. Ideally, I want to move away from a lot of external compost because my goal is not to have a lot of external resources coming in. But I think for now, it works for us and it helps build and accelerate this process. So
amazing.
Yeah. It is
decentralized food, everybody.
Yeah. So
is there anything else you want to say to the world, man? This was great. Workshops, dinner.
Dude, you can follow us and stay up to date. We now have a YouTube video.
Follow him. And guys, by the way, support him because you're directly feeding this local food system in Orlando. Yeah. Directly feeding. So props to what you're doing, the value you're bringing to the community, man.
Appreciate that. But
follow him.
You can follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, or check out our website and just stay up to date with us. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I look forward to visiting up there too.
Bro, yeah, you're more than welcome to come. Amazing. It'll be a pleasure to have you up there to show you what we got going on.
Amazing.
Show you the complexity that we've created.
Dude, so good. You're showing people the model.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of many, right?
Yeah.
You have to come back on too in a year or two, like progress, talk about it.
I love visiting all my friends' sites. It's fun driving all throughout Florida and visiting friends that are farming, gardening, and doing it. So, and seeing the progression that they're going through. So,
you're definitely a friend now, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, totally, bro.
Heck yeah. Peace, y'all.
Later.
Hey guys, another awesome video. Thank you for watching and all your support. Hey, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button down below if you haven't already. It goes a long way. We'll see you in the next one.